Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Our guest today, since co-founding the Ocean Legacy in 2013, she has organized more than 30 extensive beach cleanups, expeditions in 4 countries, and has engaged hundreds of thousands of people in direct action cleanups, education, and recycling. Guys, if you like what we're doing here, please like and subscribe as always. But without any further ado, Chloe Dubois, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And how are you freaking doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I feel like we've been trying to get together for a while now and talk plastics. So it's an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, it's fantastic having you on because we've had Surf Rider, so Lily Woodbury with Surf Rider Canada, and she's been fantastic. We had Plastic Oceans out of California, and now we've had Marine Mammal Rescue, all these type of really cool ocean themed, ocean protection themed groups, and now we've got the Ocean Legacy with yourself, which is super fantastic. We're just really stoked. And but actually what we do first on all our shows is we do something called 2 truths and a lie. So Chloe has sent us a couple of truths and a few lies and sprinkled some other stuff in there probably. So Dev and I are going to have to guess which is the lie out of this list of things. Okay, Dev?
Yeah.
All righty. Ready to go?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this one's sad. This first one. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's a bit sad. Chloe is sadly allergic to scallops. That's sad. That's sad to me.
Dang.
I love scallops.
Scallops are pretty damn good, yeah.
Oh. Okay, number 2. Chloe holds a master's degree in international studies.
Yes.
That's totally plausible.
Legit, yeah.
Oh, here's a good one. Dev. Yeah. Chloe attempts to summon dolphins with her wild dolphin call.
What?
You should talk to my niece. My niece she does the same. She's like totally into the dolphins and whales, and she does these dolphin calls and things. That's so wild. So there is more people out here possibly that does this. Number 4 or something. The Ocean Legacy organization has diverted over 800,000 pounds of plastic from cleanup efforts and keeping them out of the landfills. So that's a lot of plastic. Wow. And last one. Oh gosh, this is kind of terrifying. Chloe had a chute malfunction when skydiving and almost broke her leg. Ugh.
They're all could be possible.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think's the lie?
I don't know, man. What was it? So
scallops. So
dolphins,
she definitely dolphin call. Yeah, and the 800,000, which I believe they put 800,000 pounds or kept them out of the landfill.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
You know what? I'm gonna go with not allergic to scallops. It's a trick. We're being tricked.
Yeah. That's
maybe.
I know. That's a sad one. If it is like it's
lock it in.
Okay, I'm gonna say the skydiving accident.
All right.
That's like, whoa, man. That's like
true potential.
Yeah. So okay.
Do I tell you now?
Yeah, you can tell us. Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Well, I am allergic to scallops, unfortunately.
Wow. That's a bummer.
And I did not almost break my leg. So Nigel, you're on point there. Nigel got it.
Wow.
Well, he's got to get it sometimes, I guess.
I know. I never get it. You always get it. Yeah. It's my turn. Wow. Actually, it was interesting that the stats. So the stats here on Ocean Legacy, like diverting 800,000 pounds of plastic from your cleanup efforts, right, away from landfills. That's actually really cool because there's another. Actually, I forgot to mention that we also interviewed Kelly Mason, who has an organization called Pave the Road, and they take plastics from. They're in Costa Rica. And there's a really cool film that she made about a documentary film about taking the plastics and they grind them and blend them, and they're actually paving roads in Costa Rica and places like that with some of this plastic, which is, so I forgot to mention that. So that's,
Nice. Yeah.
that's really, really cool. And their films, like her film is won all these film festivals and doing really, really well. So a shout out there for Kelly and what she's doing.
Great.
She's,
Yeah, I think I remember you sending me that link at some point. So
they're doing lots of stuff. So it's really neat. So so I guess go back to like the basics here. So, what are the implications of these plastics getting into our oceans? If you want to kind of just talk about that for some of our listeners that may not realize, think a plastic jug goes into the ocean, it floats around and washes up at another beach. It actually breaks down over time, right? And the microplastics are the real issue, I think. So yeah, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. What's really kind of thought-provoking or compelling is that it's now being estimated that about 450 million tons of plastic are being produced every single year. And that number is only exponentially increasing.
Right.
And the rate of production is anticipated to almost double over the next decade. And without really having the infrastructure in place and the mitigative policy measures, management of this material is going to be near impossible then to, get out of the ocean. Cleanups are incredibly expensive and time consuming. And it's really estimated that about 75% of all plastic ever produced has become waste now. So, when you look at what's become waste, the trajectory we're going, and the current infrastructure gap that we have, it's incredibly concerning when we're looking at the health of our oceans and really the species as a whole, including humanity on this planet, and what's really going to happen and how that's going to implicate our entire world.
Wow.
3 billion people on this planet depend on the ocean for, their protein source. So once these plastics and these materials get into the food chain and work their way up through the trophic level and eventually become consumed by humans, we are introducing a potentially very toxic substance into the basis of our very existence. And the long-term repercussions of this are really, they're not known at this point. The health implications, the human health implications to our health are right now contentious in the scientific community, and there's really a lack of long-term research being done and the full effect of what that's going to be in the human body. So there's should be a huge investment and push to get more study and research completed. And just to talk a little bit more about that, the science that has been completed, it's been shown that nanoplastics now, when they enter into the body, have actually been shown to break through the blood-brain barrier.
Yes, I've heard that.
So, and plastics have now been found in utero. And it's also been shown, if once plastics get into the body, say into the lung, a particle has been shown to work through the lung mucus and end up in the lymph node. So these particles can translocate around the human body. And really, we have no idea at this point what that means for us and for our kids and future.
Wow. And when you talk about, the science and the study of this is, hasn't been done for that long. We have to realize that plastics haven't been around that long. They've only, 1950s or something like that, when plastics were actually started and invented and actually started to be used in things. So, I mean, that period of time where we've put all of this plastic out there, we've created it, we've put it out there, and you said 75% of it is now, waste in some form. I mean, there's and it's not a very long period in time at all. It's absolutely, and finding microplastics in the Arctic and in the ice, deep in the ice. It's, how it's just actually, it's mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling, right?
And it's fully in, our the water systems, the water cycle of the planet. You'll find plastics now basically in every nook and cranny on the planet. So, I mean, we need to really push to understand what this means and what those implications are long term.
Yeah. I mean, I know you guys have taken part in a lot of, beach cleanups and things. And I guess what our listeners, it's kind of interesting. I always thought, yeah, okay, there's some plastic, on the beach, okay, it's here, but it's global. It's everywhere. It's every nook and cranny on the planet. And I know you guys, you do your beach cleanups, and you've done remote beach cleanups, and off the west coast of Vancouver Island, while you go to a remote island, and there'll be 6 feet of junk, trash and junk, and it's around the whole planet. I know when we were really fortunate as a family to travel in 2014, 2015, and we hit so many different countries, and we wanted to do a bit of an endless summer journey, and we were surfing in so many countries. And I know that when Devin and I, we were in Bali, remember Dev, we were in Bali, and beautiful beaches, you read on all the surf magazines, Uluwatu and blah, 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 best surf spots on the planet. And like you get there and, you paddle out and it's great one day. And then the next day, because they get a lot of rain, and you get these rainstorms, and then boom, the whole ocean is full of plastic. You can't even catch a wave because your skeg is getting caught in all the gunk and all the crap in the ocean. And we don't realize that a lot of that comes from population, the people putting their garbage on it. They throw it over the fence into the dried up creek because it's away. They throw it away. They don't know where away is. That's away to them and to us. And then we get a flash rain, and poof, where does it go? Ends out in the ocean. Always ends up in the oceans. And it was just absolutely, and we saw it every single place. We saw it in Indonesia. We saw it, we saw it in Brazil. It's like a lot in Brazil, and even in places like Portugal, Europe, all over. And we go to Tofino quite a bit, and we clean the beaches, and it's great. But then there's all the nooks and crannies away from where people are that don't want the,
and
you know what I
those
mean?
remote areas are usually the most polluted, just because they can't be maintained, and the resources to get to those locations and to have the human power to remove those materials is often unattainable for a lot of smaller, more remote coastal communities. So those sort of forgotten or remote places stay polluted until often volunteer efforts go out and
volunteers
make an effort.
That's right. So what do you like with you guys? Like, what do you think some of the solutions are, for this? I mean, my business has been oil spill response, like cleaning up oil spills from marine, and we're always trying to make, a better oil containment system or a skimming system to pick up the oil spill. But really what it is we got to stop spilling the oil in the oceans. And it's the same thing as we're having these, there's the what's the name of the guys that are going out to the Great Garbage Patch out in the Gyre with their ship and their big boom and they're cleaning it up. That's fantastic. The ocean cleanup. It's great, but it's just like we got to stop it getting in there in the first place.
I mean, I think one of the core or leading solutions that needs to happen, and a next pragmatic step for us as a humanity, we need to create a globally binding treaty that can catalyze the actions of all of the countries working together to manage the policy, manage the infrastructure, and put together a strategic plan in terms of how we're going to refuse certain plastics, redesign our products, capture the plastics that are produced, and clean up the leakages at this point. When we look at plastic pollution and we compare it to other major environmental crises on this planet that are already recognized as threats to global security, such as global climate change, biodiversity and species loss, even invasive species or persistent organic pollutants, plastic meets all of those same criteria to be classified as a threat to global security, yet it completely lacks any sort of globally binding treaty. And this needs to change. We need to have countries starting to harmonize policies, and we need something to start to catalyze and unify a global approach to this incredibly, compelling pollution that we are now facing.
Yeah. And you guys put out a report, right? You had a report on plastic pollution is a threat to global security, right? Is that right?
Yes, a few
yeah.
weeks ago, we did
Oh,
launch
yeah,
a
there you go.
report that that summarizes that, and really looking. It's interesting when you look at all of those crises,
Yeah.
and then you even put a plastic pollution lens on something, say like global climate change. Plastic pollution affects most of those environmental crises and actually contributes to the cumulative effects of those. When we talk about global climate change, we don't often include plastic pollution in the conversation.
Right,
But
right.
plastic pollution is made of carbon and it affects atmospheric carbon levels. Yet when you're asked to complete your carbon footprint or start to evaluate your business's carbon impact, you're often not asked to evaluate your plastic consumption. Yet, in the next decade, it's considered that plastic is going to be, 15% of the global carbon budget. So we really need to start highlighting and connecting these gaps in how we look at these issues and how we can bring together and merge our management strategies so that we can create something that's more holistic when we're looking at, say, global climate change or even the management of plastic pollution.
Wow. Was there any discussion around plastics and plastic pollution, et cetera, at the COP 26 I can't remember if it was 20 in Glasgow just a few weeks ago? Was there any discussion about that and in the climate
To be
change
honest,
conference?
I'm not 100% sure,
Yeah.
but if there was, it wasn't highlighted and it
I
did
haven't
not
seen
catch my
anything.
attention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, even connecting that carbon cycle is missing from our common practice and understanding. And so we really need to start looking at the issue of plastic pollution and taking it seriously and elevating it to that level of, this is a global threat to security. Let's bring it to that because it meets all of the same parameters and criteria. And now let's go forth and integrate it into all of these other management practices that are already occurring.
Right, right. And you, the Ocean Legacy has, have great kind of partnerships, I guess, partnerships with groups like Surfrider, et cetera, that are, organizing volunteers all over. They're a large organization to recover and, do beach cleanups. And then and you guys are taking that waste, right? And you're processing it.
I mean, one of the major gaps that we've identified is a lack of infrastructure and capacity to capture and process these materials. So that's where Ocean Legacy really started building its capacity. And over the last few years, we've been working with the municipal, provincial, and federal governments to create these depot centers around the province to capture plastics that are being collected from cleanup from the ocean, shoreline, or marine industrial, but as well as provide a hub for industry or nonprofit organizations to take their materials to before they become marine debris or ghost gear. Right. So we're looking at those sort of end of pipe solutions, mitigative solutions, and then our facility now that's based in Richmond, British Columbia, is taking those materials and processing them back into a usable product that can be reintegrated back into a manufacturing process to really close the loop and to create essentially a high value product that then can be treated as such and to be reintegrated into the plastic circular economy.
Right. So are you breaking it down into like pellets or what's the?
We are,
the end product
at this point. But we have a very stringent sort of assessment or evaluation process that we do. So we aren't really contributing plastics towards any kind of single use product. We look for recyclability in design, durability, long term of its life, and look at the sort of the full life cycle of a product before we contribute plastic towards that production. So we're trying to do things differently because we're walking this sort of line between being a nonprofit organization and now a plastic producer, which I never thought I would become in my wildest dreams. So it's been, a really big learning and a unique opportunity for us really to try and do things differently. And if we had the opportunity to do that, how would we do that? So we're really sort of leading the way right now in trying new things and new systems and ways of connecting and creating in the world, which is exciting.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, you're kind of right at the forefront here. Like it's, just in the past couple of years. And yeah, it's how do you ramp it up? How do you, because I mean, I know that, a lot of this stuff is collected by volunteers, people with the good hearts and they want to clean up and they head down to the beach and they clean things up. It's like, how do you take it to another level? I mean, the volunteers are fantastic. It's how do you, it's the education in neighborhoods around the globe, not to throw the garbage into the creeks and whatever, and ends up in the ocean. And it's
this year was the first year in a decade for us anyways, and for some other groups that we work with, multiple decades, where we were able to work with the provincial government with the Clean Coast, Clean Waters Fund and actually provide paid employment opportunities for people to go out on the coast and collect material, which is at a historical turning point, I hope, for our community, because we were able to finally bring, a lot of the groups that are working in a leadership capacity and start to agree on best practices, start to agree on safety protocols, and start to really develop and flesh out what we hope can evolve into a new industry where conservation and restoration are at the forefront of what we do. And so this year was, I think, a pinnacle moment for, at least in our community in British Columbia, to start to build the model for that. And the end of life of a lot of those materials kind of came through our facility. So we've had a pretty big year between the Ghost Gear Fund, which was launched by the federal government with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, and then with the Clean Coast, Clean Waters Fund. There really has been a huge push and investment from our government, which is really refreshing to see happen in Canada, and as a testament to where we're going as a role in our leadership worldwide.
Right. And like, you're right, like a lot of these ocean industries and ocean protection groups have come out of Vancouver. It's amazing, everything from Greenpeace all the way to so many different groups and technologies. And it's and to have you guys, here locally, kind of leading the way is really, really cool. And I agree that it's, I don't know if it's sad or not, but it's like, if there's something financial attached to things like this, people will get involved. And if there's something called the plastic bank. Do you know anything about the plastic bank? So are they taking, I'm not sure what they're doing, but I don't know if you know much about that. So there's a plastic, because I guess they're taking plastic and then they're paying, or there's a value to it or something. I'm not sure.
I think what they're doing is setting up, they work more in developing or so-called developing countries
I see. Okay.
to set up depots that can then be used as recollection points for certain types of resin coats. So beverage containers or, shampoo bottles, that kind of thing. And then basically the collectors are paid upon how much they're returning, so that there's a value placed on these plastics that would normally end up, say, in the ocean or the aquatic environment, landfill, or oftentimes just being burnt somewhere in the forest or in a ditch. So it's definitely a tool, and it's, I think, a part of the puzzle in terms of trying to push all of this forward and ultimately really create a market for these materials.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what we recycle here. It's just in North America, we have our blue bins and everything kind of, it's kind of become part of our DNA now. People just do it, and it goes to the recycling thing, and there's a value attached to that, and it gets recycled. But I guess in a lot of the other developing worlds there, where they don't have that infrastructure, this type of thing, the people, there's value. There's actually creating work for people, and a little bit of financial, help to whatever they're doing. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and what kind of sets Canada apart from a lot of other communities worldwide, and even communities within Canada itself, is that Canada advocates for a polluter's pay principle. So what everyone's really been trying to push for is creating extended producer responsibility programs, EPR, for different items. So say beverage bottles in British Columbia, everything has a deposit on that.
That's right.
And so really those funds then go towards the management of these materials. And that's been really the most sustainable or sort of evidence-based proof to show higher increases of plastic being returned, is when there is that sort of profit associated to those materials. So British Columbia has been a leader in EPR and started one of the first beverage container programs in the world in the 1970s. And so we have this track record of, going above and beyond and showing that leadership role in the worldwide community. So, this is why having a program like ours and setting up, these sort of much larger depot centers around the province, it really fits into the culture here.
It's interesting you say the culture, because it's one of those things that we've been slow. It's like anything. It kind of, people are reluctant at first, and then it becomes 3 or 4 years goes by, and it's just like it's the norm. Like we just do it, and everybody does it, and so it's interesting. Like it's part of our normal day now. But there are places where I've been, like Texas in the United States, and into Houston and areas like that, where they just don't do it at all. Everything just goes into the trash. And I know it's just like what, you don't have a program? No, it just goes all into. So it's like it's one of these things that it's we were the same, so many years back, saying, no, we just throw it in the trash, because you throw it away and it's gone, right? And then we started doing it, and now it just becomes the norm, and now everybody does it. If you don't do it, you kind of get smacked, and they have commercials on TV, and but there's other areas where we don't realize that it's not there yet. They're not doing it, and so it's it's the education, of education and value of why we all need to chip in and do this as a global community.
Yeah, totally. And I think knowledge is definitely power, but change comes with action. Exactly. And we really need, this baseline knowledge to be absorbed, so that we can, as a humanity, understand the implications of what's happening, and then really try to come together and come up with comprehensive solutions to match the complexity of this sort of crisis that we are, fully in at the moment with these materials.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, it's been interesting to watch, your organization, and then other, because I find like it's interesting in the nonprofit space, because nonprofit are usually looking for, they look for donations and whatnot from certain groups, right? And like to keep it very kind of close. Like, I'm not going to tell you because you're going to go get my donors, right? But it's really cool to see, there's groups like yourself, like the Ocean Legacy, and then the Surfrider, and all these, like starting to really kind of work together, because we have to do it all together. So yeah, and to spread the knowledge, to get the knowledge out there, and volunteers and the people, educated. It's really, really cool. Yeah. Well,
Totally,
I know when we were traveling, we were kind of ocean water people, And I just got so pissed off with the oceans being full of trash, like everywhere we went. And Dev and myself and Kina, and we started this little app. We call it True Beach, so it's able to, so people can go in and they can go to a beach and they can um take a picture if there's garbage. It's, they put the garbage on. If it's clean, they take a picture. So it's just a bit of a database thing to, and it's been
Yeah.
really, so I mean, we just kind of, we started playing around with that a few years back when we got back off our trip. And but what's really been interesting is, because we kind of went in down that path, it really opened our eyes to so much that's been going on, and so many amazing organizations, like with, and having relationships with you guys and Surf Rider and Pachamama Alliance and all these, and Kelly Mason with Pave the Road. Like it's just we've met a lot of really incredible people, just really doing cool stuff and making a difference, and that I never knew existed. And it all started because we just started this little app thing, and I started talking to people.
Crazy.
I know. So it's one thing that leads to another, right? And then boom, here we are, so many years later. And
Yeah.
and every time anything comes up on the ocean, I'm like, on my Instagram or whatnot, I'm reading through it, and it's yeah. So it's been absolutely incredible. And yeah. Dev, you got any
No, it's
questions or
great.
anything
No,
there
no,
for
it's-
because I know you're the one, like in Indonesia there, it was just like, come on, like it was so frustrating, right?
Well, yeah, it was crazy, and but it's also hard. It's also easy to forget, or
Mhm.
yeah, that these people don't live in the same conditions we do. They don't,
Exactly.
we take a lot for granted, right? We have a lot, and
Yeah.
when you're having a hard time, you know, feeding your family, why do you care about plastic being in the ocean, right? So it's kind of
It's
oh,
true.
hold on, sorry. There's my cat.
Cat.
It was like a
So you,
leopard that just went across your lap.
yeah. So you feel for that. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's a
Um,
good
but absolutely, like you said, like knowledge is power, and the more we educate ourselves and the more we educate, the youth too, and me and like all my friends, and the more that we can know, the more power to us, right? And I think we all have these little devices at our fingertips, and we have pretty much infinite knowledge, so like use it,
mm,
and then get out there and
Mhm.
do something, right? And create action, and get
And I
stuff
think
done.
that piece you're talking about around connecting with the youth, I think
Mm.
instilling a sense of connection and importance with the youth to develop an intimate relationship with nature is
yeah.
absolutely critical.
Mhm.
And being on the devices has sort of been a challenge because not enough people are experiencing the real world and the systems which sustain our lives at the
Right.
moment. And so having that integrated into early based education, giving opportunity for toddlers up to young adult, and even beyond, to take the time to connect with the natural systems is
Mm,
going to be core and key to having people appreciate and feel like it's worth saving,
Right.
and worth connecting with.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and that's a huge component right now that is completely missing from our culture, our Western culture, anyways.
Yeah.
mhm,
Um,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
you're so right. I think people, we forget that we're like of this earth. This is where we're
yeah,
from. We're from this, just like everything else that's ever been here and ever will be here. We are all one and the same, right? And it's like, yeah, it's just so easy to forget that. And I think people with consumerism and big corporations is just more and more and more and more power. And these people are like, well, I'm here for a short amount of time.
Mm,
I'm gonna take everything that's mine and I'm gonna pass it on to my son. And after that, who cares what happens, right? But as we were talking on the earlier podcast,
mm.
like the indigenous people, they'll think, 7 years in the future or 7 years in the
7
past,
generations,
seven
yeah.
generations, right?
Yeah,
generations.
Seven
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
generations. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah.
if you take that
Crazy.
into perspective, and then like you're saying, realize like where we're from, like this is our home. We only have one of them, and we're not better than it. And all we think, lots of people think, well, we're better than it, and we can create and we can destroy and nothing really matters. But it's completely the opposite. It's like absolutely everything we do has an impact, and absolutely everything we do
Yeah.
matters.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. From drinking out of a single-use plastic water bottle and going, "Oh, I'm just good. I'm just gonna have one." Like being on set and working in film and stuff. So everyone has single So I bring my own water
Still,
bottle. It's like,
hey, it's
yeah,
still
then
like
it's like,
that.
but then it's like, oh, it's just so easy, you know, it's just so easy to drink out of this water, and then put it down, and then right, out of sight, out of mind. And it's like, well, that water bottle is gonna go into the garbage, and that garbage is gonna go wherever, and that's gonna end up and then into the ocean, and then break down. And look at that, it's now in your grandkids' food. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, I know, yeah, because I just wasn't aware, this is back, and I know when it was like 2009. I was at a conference in Boston, and this incredible lady, Lynn Twist, who's one of the founders of the Pachamama Alliance that works with indigenous tribes out of the Amazon. She was a speaker, and she stood up in front of us, and we'd been there 3 or 4 days before she came in, and our desks were covered in these water bottles, right? These little, little tiny water. You have one, you take a sip, put it down, you grab another one because it's easy, and then you got like 5 of them on your desk. Well, 75 was in the class. We all had these things stacked up. And
Wow.
Lynn gets up, Lynn Twist gets up in front of us, and she has a reusable coffee mug or water bottle or something. And she's standing there and she's looking around. She goes, wow, you guys, I've got to make an observation here. We're like, okay, like, what is it? Look at all the water bottles you got on your desk. I'm like, so? Yeah, okay. So did you realize that all those are going to go into the trash? Like all 75 of you have like what, 3 to 5 each. All that's going to go into the trash. It's going to end up, who knows where, but probably in the ocean and what. I'm like, and I was just like, oh my God, she's right. I've never thought of it that way. From that day forward, boom, I have my, recyclables, and I get really ticked if I go to a Starbucks or wherever it is, and I go, I'd like my coffee. Can you take my thing and fill it up? And no, we can't. You have to have it in a paper cup or some with a plastic lid. But then you say, I want it. Can I have it for here? And because they have their nice little mug, and they, but then they give it to you in another one. I'm like, no, actually, I actually asked for here, but that's. She said, oh no, that's okay. So they get the thing and they pour it, and they're gonna check that. And I'm like, no, stop. Like it's just, but it's all educate. It's all. I had no idea. And
Mhm.
people just don't realize. So like you said, like it's the education, and I think we are connecting more and more with the indigenous cultures of the past. It's taken us a long time, and a lot of horrific stuff has gone on, but I really feel that things are kind of coming back, and hopefully we're starting to listen to, like you said, 7 generations back, 7 generations forward. We need to listen and learn from the elders and these indigenous people, because they've been here thousands and thousands of years, and we've been here a couple of 100 years.
Mhm.
And we're so yeah, I was rambling a bit there.
no, it's good. It's good. It's the
Yeah,
juicy stuff.
and
So.
I think like even
Uh,
looking for ways to shift the behavior and the culture are going to be so important. Like humans are the only species on this planet that creates what most people call garbage.
yeah.
And but what I'm trying to call underutilized resources, because
Right.
they're extracted and manufactured and products are produced, and then it's sort of this make, take, waste model, and it
Right.
just doesn't work. And so we really need to start harmonizing back with natural cycles and natural rhythms of the planet.
Mhm.
I think in order to probably survive as a humanity moving into the future,
Yeah.
just because the rate of our consumption is not sustainable.
Mhm.
And how are we going to look to the future to redefine these systems in which we rely upon? And I
Mhm.
think creating circularity is going to be absolutely core and key to that moving forward, and really evolving us as beings, and our culture and behaviors, and what
Mhm.
we look to create in the world.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we have to, like you said. I mean, I don't know when it was, but there was a year, they say, was the tipping point, right? Where we were actually taking more than the earth could regenerate. And that was, I don't know if it was 10, 15 years ago, but it's a while ago now that we're way past the tipping point. And we really got to up the game here. And, these conferences on climate change, the COP26, and it's great. It's good, but we really need to like stick this into overdrive, from the,
Mhm.
what we're doing with plastics and renewable energy. And because we're seeing it, we're really seeing the impact all around on, from the contamination of the planet all the way to, you know, climate change, and it's hitting everybody, everybody on the planet. Areas that we never thought here in the Pacific Northwest, we always thought, oh, we're not going to get any of these crazy, we're always protected, and boom, you know, 40 something degrees temperatures in the summer, and the floodings, you know, wiping, it's just unheard of, unheard of.
Well,
Mhm.
and the
It's just
thing is,
getting
right, it's like until it's on your doorstep, people tend to not
true,
really care.
true.
Oh, that's on the other side of the world, really. Yeah, whatever. What am I gonna do about it? Until it's your house, you know, on fire, or your house getting flooded out or whatever. It's like then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is a big deal, which sucks, which really does suck, and it kind of annoys me. But it's like until it's literally on your doorstep, people seem to not care. So it's I think it's
Mhm.
it's shitty for these things to happen. It's terrible, but it's almost it's like an awakening. It's almost like
Yeah.
people will be more conscious now because they're like, oh my God, my basement flooded last year, or my house, you know,
Hmm.
and you know,
Mhm.
obviously it's terrible. It's horrific. It's horrific that these things have to happen,
Mm.
but they do, and I
Yeah, but
think it's just yeah, it's if we keep going this way, it's just gonna get worse.
mhm. But I feel too like even when people have their watershed moment
Mm,
or the
Hmm.
moment that kind of changes the rest of their life, the systems that are in place right now
mm,
don't really support that evolution
Mm.
or that behavioral shift that I think a lot of people are awakening to.
totally.
And so we need a full system redesign,
Yeah.
you know, in how we extract and manufacture and the products that are being produced
Hmm.
and the full life cycle of what we do and the cost of that really needs to be reevaluated. Um, because it's not. And I think
Hmm.
that's one of the core, I guess, issues of what's leading sort of this business as usual
Mm.
case forward and why it's perpetuating.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, so what can people do to help? Like, say our listeners, if they wanna help out, because I know you guys. I do see your posts that when you're, you know, certain days, you know, you need people to help sort, you know, at your
Mhm.
facility. You know, come on down. We're sorting all of this, you know, from volunteers to, and then there's beach cleanups. And so, what can, yeah, what can people do to help out?
Yeah, I think to participate specifically with Ocean Legacy,
Hmm.
you can visit our website at oceanlegacy.ca.
Yep.
And over the last, I guess, few years, we've developed a 10-part curriculum series, which breaks down pretty much all the founding building blocks of knowledge that you need to know if you do have interest in the plastic pollution crisis or the ocean plastic issue.
Wow.
And really the 10 lessons are separated into two components. So the first half of the curriculum is really about building those knowledge building blocks. So what is plastic pollution? How does it get created? How do plastics, you know, reach the ocean? All the way to what is the plastic circular economy? And
Hmm.
then with these building blocks in place, then we look at taking that knowledge and now how do we integrate that into action-based solutions in our communities? So then the next sort of phase is we look at how do you talk to media? How do you talk to your government? Here's some actual templates you can use to write to your MLAs or local political parties to advocate for specific policies. We even look at, you know, what is a policy and,
Hmm.
you know, what are some plastic policies that you could maybe get behind and advocate for to create in your own community. So we really look at even behavior change and how to change things, how to change your own behavior in your life, and then how to ripple that out to your family and then into your community. So we've really taken the last decade of our work and tried to create a framework to help people and guide people along in their own journey and then
Hmm.
connect that to the greater whole.
Right.
So I think that sort of initial step into engaging with our organization would be a great first step.
Yeah.
Um, we also provide resources on how to do your own cleanups. And then I
Mhm.
think also voting with your dollar. So looking at products that are made from recycled content and looking for products that can be that are recyclable and can be reintegrated back into the plastic circular economy, and then
Right.
purchasing those items and really supporting any means in which possible to create that circularity or start to create that circularity in your own life.
I think it's really cool because I actually just bought a Patagonia jacket, right? And they actually list on there how much of that is recycled material that is used in that. So it's that's really, there's a lot of companies that are starting to do that, and I think that's great. I think Patagonia, I mean, that's been kind of their thing for quite a long time. So yeah, it's really cool that that's starting to happen. Yeah. So then
that's great.
So people, if they want to, look at that, the course or get the course, can they go onto your website and can they download it?
So it's free online.
Okay.
And it's really easy just to register, and then you can start right away, basically on your own time.
Fantastic.
And then, we're, you can contact us on our website to learn more, if you have questions, or actually yesterday we actually launched our plastic, our ocean plastic pellet for sale. So looking to partner and work and collaborate with brands to start to integrate plastics collected from shoreline, ocean, or marine industrial cleanup back into new products. So that's another way to work with either civil society or industry to really create a practical gateway into how to create this economy that we all seem to be wanting and talking about. So that's sort of where we've been focusing on, and how maybe people can work with us to build that future together.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Dev, any other final points there before we?
No, not really.
Yeah. Chloe, any points that you would like to throw out here before we, because I think we're almost, we're coming up to about an hour here, getting close.
Yeah, that went by fast. No, I think we've covered a lot, actually.
That was fantastic. And then Deb, we had some sponsors for this episode, I think there, right there. Did you see the?
Yeah, give me 1 second. All right, guys. So I'm gonna wrap it up then.
he's put his announcer's voice back on here.
Hey, everybody. Devin here. How's it going? Good to talk to you today. Guys, thank you so much for checking in. This was an awesome episode. If you like what we're doing, please like, share, and subscribe. If you guys want to know more about Chloe Dubois, we're gonna put everything in the link of the description of the video. We're gonna put Ocean Legacy stuff there. Check out True Beach. It's free in the App Store. And the sponsors for today is Marine Mammal Rescue at Vancouver Aquarium and the Surf Rider Foundation. Thank you guys so much. And Chloe, thank you so much for coming to the show, taking this time to be here with us today. It's very inspiring hearing you talk. You're very inspiring, and you're very driven. And I just love hearing these stories from people who are just like, going and getting it and saving the world, because that's what we need these days. And just thank you.
Yes. And thanks both for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you. So hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I really like talking to I'm old now. So the younger people, and all the passion that you guys have to help make our world a better place for everybody, and all the impact that you have. And that's why we started this podcast here, is just to share these incredible stories, as incredible people making big changes around the world. And you're definitely one of them, and just really, really appreciate yourself and your network and all the people we've met because of, yourself and all these other incredible that are doing awesome stuff to make our world better for all life on our planet. So
absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you for saving the world.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for your time. Take care.